Okay, so this is the first video in my Linux video series where we are going to be covering Linux and the Linux CLI. Now, the first thing we need to talk about here is that in order to interact with Linux, we are going to be using what is called a shell. The specific shell that we are going to be using, and the one I have pulled up right now, is called Bash. It is called Bash because it is the Born Again shell. The original Unix shell, which was called SH, was developed by a guy named Bourne, and that is why they named the Linux one the Born Again shell. Now, one thing I need to clarify here is that in order to interact with the shell of a Linux operating system, we often need what is called a terminal emulator, and that is exactly what I'm using right here. That's what this window, this program is. Mac OS by default does come with a terminal emulator that is not bad. It is appropriately called Terminal, but I use a different one called iTerm2. It is a fantastic free terminal emulator that I highly suggest you use. Now, I am logged in right now to the Claude in Prod Linux operating system. It is an Ubuntu 24.04 operating system, and we will go over more of that later on. Now, the next thing you need to know is this right here is the prompt. It is where you send commands to the shell. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you're using the Bash shell, you can repeat commands and view a history of commands by simply pressing the up or down arrow keys. Keep in mind that also whenever you have a longer command written in here, you can navigate left and right with the left and right arrow keys. Now, we are going to go over some very simple commands quickly just so you can see how you send commands through the shell to execute programs in the operating system. The first one we're going to do is the date command. As it sounds, it displays the date, the current time. You can see that this server is set to UTC time. And then the next command example that I will show you is the df command. Now, it's hard to see it on this screen because the text is so big, but it shows you the disk usage of the operating system, and you can see what we have here. There is an option that you can pass into the df command, df-h, to make it human readable. But that is it for this video.